Welcome to Still Surviving and Walking in Your Purpose. I'm your host, Gigi Blackshear. Our guest is a shining example of what it means to be a servant leader. Please welcome to our show former councilwoman, educator, and musician, Miss Glorious Johnson. Miss Johnson, welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Please tell our audience, who is Glorious Johnson and what is your survival story?
Oh, I need to write a book about that, right? I was born and raised here in Jacksonville, Florida. Two wonderful parents who wanted us to, my sister and my brother, to be educated, and they made sure of that. And for many years, I taught in this public school system. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be a band leader, but at that time, women were not allowed to be band leaders, so I wound up teaching music at elementary school. And after I did that, I received a full scholarship from Columbia University in New York City to work on a master's and hopefully a PhD in administration. But then after my mother became sick, I came back home after I finished the master's and I got into politics. And I became a city council member, and the rest is history. The newspaper tells a whole lot.
It sounds like you have had an amazing life. At what age were you when you came back to Jacksonville?
When I came back to Jacksonville, I was probably heading toward about 35, something like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to go back to teaching, and then I decided that maybe I need to try something different. Mm-hmm. So a friend of mine encouraged me to run for office, and I was told not to run for office, but I did anyway. In fact, I was threatened.
Oh my.
And told that I shouldn't run for office, that I was not the chosen one, and that maybe some other time down the future I may be accepted to run for office. But I'm the kind of person, I don't like people to tell me a negative when God has told me a positive. So I let them go on with their threats and so forth, and I ran anyway, and I won.
Now that was at a time when there were not very many African American women running for office. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. You say you were threatened. Mm-hmm. Who were you threatened by?
Well, there were some men from the party at that time. I was a Republican, and I was there for a few years, not many years. I did go back home to being a Democrat. But while I was over there, they called me into this room. It was about 4 men, white men, and they said that I was not chosen and I had no business getting in the race because I didn't have permission to run for office. And that if I continued on, I would not receive any money or no help from anyone, and that I would lose the race. But I remember what Donald Ford, Mad Dad's wife, said to me. She said, "Glorious, remember this. They may have threatened you and told you not to do this, but God plus one is going to help you to win." I was told that they had chosen certain people to do their bidding. And I'm the type of person, you mean to tell me that these people are going to do what you say instead of what the people say? I thought being in office was to serve the people, not a special group of people.
Right. Ms. Johnson, it must have taken great courage for you to take that step, to go against the naysayers and to do what they were telling you couldn't be done, that you shouldn't do. Where did you draw that courage from?
I get that courage from my mother. My father died very young, and my mother was the one that had to take care of the 3 children. And she always would say, Glorious, God did not give you fear. He did not teach you fear.
Yes.
And he did not teach you about timidity. He taught you to be vigilant and to stand for something, because if you can't stand for something, you'll fall for anything that comes to your path. And she was a very strong woman who married at the age of 15, but wanted an education. So she received her education. She owned her own beauty shop, and she taught for almost 50 years.
Wow.
So watching that example, that gave me the courage to move on no matter what anyone said. If God didn't say it, then why? I remember one time I asked them when I was walking out the door, I said, if your name is not Jesus, I don't need to hear you.
You said something that was so powerful. You said God plus one. God plus one is a majority.
Yes.
And when you have God on your side, you can do amazing things. After reading your Bible, I realized that you had done things that not very many other women have done. You know, to run for political office, after being an educator, and continuing to go forth with that idea of being a servant leader. You know, really going into politics to make a difference, not just for name recognition, but you wanted to make a difference. And that's such a blessing, and we need so much more of that today. What would you say to someone that is challenged by wanting to see real change, wanting to make a difference? What would you say to that person? How would you encourage someone?
First of all, people love to hear stories. And I would give a person the story that I went through. I went into City Hall to make changes. I thought I was going to do wonderful things to help the lives of the people who needed help, people who tried to be heard but were not heard. And in doing that, a lot of obstacles came my way. A lot of people, even some of the politicians themselves, even those who looked like me, did not help me in trying to make changes.
Make a difference.
They went along to get along. I just could not do it. And through that, I almost died twice. Because I carried within me, I began to get that feeling. I internalized so much, and I began to feel, oh, I can do this. I'm not worried about them. But internally, I was eating up inside until I was imploding. But then that second time, when they told my mother to take my clothes and so forth because they didn't see me making it the next day, I was determined. I heard what that doctor said.
Yes.
And I said to myself, I couldn't talk at that time, but I said to myself, Lord, you let me through this. I know what I need to do.
Yeah.
Because when you do things like that, you can't do it by yourself.
You can't walk it out in your own strength.
You can't.
Yeah.
You have to have God and others.
Yes.
God plus one.
Yes.
So when I said, okay, God, you lead and you guide me. And I will get your people to help me.
Yes.
We'll make these things work. I wanted to save Brewster Hospital. I fought for that. It was saved.
Yes.
There were 200 black Americans about to lose their homes, and they told me I couldn't get the money. I found that money, and we saved 200 people from losing their homes. This is what it's all about. It's not about us getting rich or making a whole lot of money.
Just for ourselves.
Yes, for ourselves when the people are suffering. If you want to do that, going into government is not a business.
Yeah.
What it is helping other people.
Having a desire to help and make a difference.
Yes.
And also having that spirit of determination.
Yeah, you have to be.
It sounds like there were many roadblocks put in your way, but you did not allow any of that to deter you.
Knock them
You were
down.
determined.
I
love that spirit. I love that spirit.
Knock them down, because look what God went through.
Yes.
Just doing good, they killed him. So what makes me better than him?
Scripture says a prophet is without honor in his own country.
All right.
The very people that you came to help
Yes.
sometimes came against you. You said that.
Many times that I would tell people, okay, I'm going to speak on your behalf, but I want you to be there. And when I was there, nobody there.
Showed up.
No one showed up but God. He was there. And we still won. But I remember when I first won the election, the Daily, I think it was Daily Record, wrote a long article about me, and they called me Glorious Johnson, the Lady on Fire.
Lady on Fire.
And a few days ago, I saw one of the young ladies that Clarissa knows. She had a thing, what is your faith? So I clicked on the Facebook and I said, well, let me try this. And it said, I survived because the fire in me was brighter than the fire around me.
The fire inside of you.
That's right.
Was brighter than the fire around you.
That's right.
That is absolutely powerful.
So no matter how that fire is out there, the fire in me, with the help of God and His people, we survived it. And I tell young people, like you said, what would you tell them when you go in there? Don't go alone.
Yeah.
Make sure you go in there with God. Make sure you go in there with your support team. Have a group that will support you and work with you. And those two that believe that God is a way maker.
God is a way maker.
Yes.
Ms. Johnson, it's very clear to all of us that that fire inside of you is still burning bright.
I think so.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're going to hear more from Miss Glorious Johnson in just a moment. We're back with Miss Glorious Johnson. Miss Johnson, you have told us about an absolutely wonderful life. Please tell our audience what the future holds for Glorious Johnson.
Well, the fire is still burning, and I started an organization, a nonprofit organization called the Southeast Region Economic Development Association. That is an organization that does educating communities, letting them know how they can strengthen and make their communities better. And I've been working with counseling different people and helping them to understand rules and regulations, the laws. By me being in city council, I'm able to let them have an understanding of how things work. A lot of times our people don't understand, and once they understand the rules and regulations, they can work and abide by them. And I was also asked by the president of the National Congress of Black Women to head up the Jacksonville chapter here as the chairman. So I'm also recruiting young black women, even old black women like myself, but women who will be interested in running for office, because as you know, we do not have a lot of black women in office. I'm so proud now of a young lady that's running for governor in Georgia. Well, that's what I'll be working toward, getting young women involved in politics where they can run for any office at the local, state, or federal level.
Oh my, that is absolutely amazing. So how would someone that was interested in getting more information about your organization, how can they get in touch with you?
They can call me at 904-432-6182.
Give that number again.
904-432-6182.
Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for sharing your story with our audience. We know that there is someone out there that may have an interest in going into public service that needs to see that it can be done, even though there are obstacles that might come in the way, that if they continue to press through, that they can be successful. So thank you so much for coming on our show and sharing your wealth of information. God bless you.
God bless
Thank
you.
We'll be back with Dr. Deborah Williams with some additional resources. Welcome back to our show with Dr. Deborah Williams. After listening to Glorious Johnson's story, and she has had an amazing life. She's done so many wonderful things. When you look at someone that's going into political office or someone that's trying to navigate their life to get to that place of success, to get to that place where they can be used, where they can make a difference, What kind of resources would you suggest